This is your math gal, Julie Harland. Please visit my website at yourmathgal.com, where all of my videos are organized by topic. We're going to solve this multiple angle trig equation. For 1 plus sine of 5x equals 0, the first part will be to find all values of x given in degrees. Second, all values of x in the interval 0 to 360 degrees. And then we'll do it for all real numbers in between 0 and 2 pi. All right, so we have our equation, 1 plus sine of 5x equals 0. This is called a multiple angle equation because we have 5x in here instead of just x, for instance. So we want to solve for the sine of 5x first. So let's subtract 1 from both sides. And that gives us sine of 5x equals -1. So what we're looking for are angles where the sine is -1. And we start by looking for any in the between 0 and 360 degrees. And there's only one place where the sine is -1. It's over here. If we look on the unit circle, that's where the only place where the y value is ever -1. In degrees, that would be 270 degrees. But that's not x, that's 5x. So 5x could be 270 degrees. But we want to find all values, right? This will just give us one place, but remember there are all the coterminal angles with 270 degrees, so we have to add 360 degrees k to get all values. Now remember, we're looking for all values of x. I have then to solve for x, so I need to divide both sides by 5. Now remember, multiplying both sides 5 is the same as dividing each side by 5 is the same as multiplying both sides by 1/5. So some people do it with fractions. It doesn't really matter. So let's see, 270 divided by 5, that is 54 degrees. Don't forget the degree symbol. And 365 divided by 5 is 72. So this should give us all solutions in the interval. So if you're going to write that, that would be x such that x equals 54 degrees plus 72 degrees k, where k is an integer. You can either put that in the solution braces or not. I've seen it written both ways. So that was part A, to find the solution for all values in degrees. The second part was to find all values in degrees in the interval 0 to 360 degrees. So now let's do that. So part B, how would we get the ones just in between 0 and 360 degrees? Well, we know the first one, well, that's when k is 0, is 54 degrees. So 54 degrees should work. And then it says plus 72k, so that's add 72 degrees to this, right, times 1, or if you add it again, that's the same as 72 degrees times 2, add it again, etc. So what we do is we add 72 degrees to this 54 and make sure it's still under 360 degrees. So you could do that in your head or not. I'm just going to show over on the side. In other words, the first one's 54, and if I add 72 degrees to it, I get 126. So that's the next one, 126 degrees. If I add 72 again, I have 198 degrees. I add 72 again, I've got 270 degrees. And if I add it one more time, 72 to that, I have 342. degrees. And if I add 72 one more time, I'm over 360 degrees. So these are our solutions. 54 degrees, 126 degrees, 198 degrees, 270 degrees, and 342 degrees. Let's go and check it. You know, the only way you really know whether you got it correct is you can go ahead and use a calculator and check this. So in other words, how about if I just check one of them? It doesn't really matter. Let's just check what happens when x is 198 degrees. That looks kind of like 1980. Okay, 100. And we have to look at the original problem, which was 1 plus sine of 5x equals 0. So basically, you're going to figure out what 5 times 198 degrees. Of course, you could do that in your calculator, and the question is that going to be equal to 0 when I do this computation. So you could put this all into your calculator, or you could first go ahead and multiply 5 times 198 degrees. That's up to you, which is 990 degrees. And so now you could take your calculator, compute the sine of 990 degrees, add 1 to it, and see what you get. So get out your calculator, put it into degree mode, and do the computation. And this will give you 1 plus negative 1, which is 0. So yes, it does check. You could just see that both sides give you the same thing, right? Because 1 plus negative 1 is 0. So 198 degrees is one of the correct solutions here. All right, you could do that for all of them. That's the only way you know for sure that each of these really are solutions. The third part was to find all the real number solutions in the interval 0 to 2 pi. So how would we do that? Well, we start out the same way. We want to solve for the sine of 5x. And then again, we have to find what angles have a sine of negative 1. That also is going to be the same, except that you're going to write your answer in radians. So for instance, 0, negative 1 is the place where the y value is negative 1 on the unit circle. So that tells us that one of the solutions is, right, now what is that in terms of radians? That's 3 pi over 2. But of course, that's just the only solution in between 0 and 360, or in between 0 and 2 pi degrees. But, very important, to get all the solutions, it would be plus 2 pi k. Now, I know we're not looking for all the solutions, but we first have to write down this possibility because we're going to have to divide everything by 5 here. All right, now it's going to look messy if we divide by 5, but I'll show you what that would look like. Divide by 5, divide by 5, divide by 5. It's this one in the middle here that, you know, is a little messy looking. It's a complex fraction, but I do get x equals, and let's just go over to this side. What's 3 pi over 2 divided by 5? Well, dividing by 5 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/5. So that's really just 3 pi over 10. And what do I have over here? Plus 2 pi k over 5. Now notice I'm going to be adding fractions. It'll be easier if we have a common denominator. So the other thing I might do is think of this as 4 pi k over 10, because to get all of the values of x in 0 to 2 pi, I'm going to have to be adding this 4 pi over 10. Well, I'm really adding the 2 pi over 5, but at the next step I'd have to keep changing it to 4 pi over 10 to add. So for x now, we're just going to choose, you know, as many as we can that's still going to be less than 2 pi. By the way, 2 pi, if I want to see it with a denominator of 10, right, would be what? I'd have to multiply by 10 over 10. So that's the same thing as 20 pi over 10. So just keep this in mind when we start listing. Right now we're going to start listing all the values of x that are solutions in the interval 0 to 2 pi. We're not going to go any more than 20 pi over 10. So here are our solutions. Well, the first one, 3 pi over 10, that's still less than 20 pi over 10, right? All right, now how would I get the next one? It's 4 pi over 10 times k. So that we'll just add 4 pi over 10. Well, nice, have a common denominator. Just add the numerators, 3 pi plus 4 pi, to get the next one. Then we just do that again. Add another 4 pi over 10. Add 4 pi to the numerator. We'll get 11 pi over 10. And we do it again. This is still less than 20 pi over 10. That's the key here. We have 15 pi over 10. And one more time is 19 pi over 10. And those are our 5 solutions. Now, do you remember what let's go back and look at what our 5 solutions were in degrees. We had 54, 126, 198, 270, and 342. So these should be the same, but in degrees of the 5 we just got in real numbers. Let's just check one of them. So for part C, we are looking for the radian measure, which is right here, and this was our degree measure, and these really should be the same 5, just one's in radians and one's in degrees. So it doesn't really matter which one you take. For instance, is 7 pi over 10 the same as 126 degrees? Well, let's just check that out real quickly. If we have 7 pi over 10 and we want to change that to degrees, you could just multiply 180 over pi to get it in degrees. And let's see, 10 goes into 180 18 times. And so you have to do 7 times 18, and that is 126 degrees. So yes, it does seem to be working out. And of course, the only way to know for sure that all of these are the solutions, whether it's in radians or degrees, is to put it in the correct mode on your calculator and plug each one of those into the original equation, which is 1 plus sine of 5x equals -1. This is your math gal, Julie Harland. Please visit my website at yourmathgal.com, where all of my videos are organized by topic.